there were little things that would happen that were kind of interesting, but as little things, you know. The night that Steve was exasperated with the grandmother who thought her granddaughter was schizophrenic or something, and finally asked her what she would say about her granddaughter's behavior if she'd never heard of this concept, and the grandmother said, "Well, I'd call her a spoiled brat," and that opened up a whole new line of thinking. There were lots of those kinds of moments, but I think that in the early years, for me, what I take away is less that than the research team. They had a research team that met once, I think it was once a month, maybe it was twice a month. And Jane Peller was on the team. I remember that. Wally was on the team at least sometimes. Steve was on the team. And it was very interesting. The meetings were very interesting because they would begin with one or two issues. And sometimes it was something that would happen in an individual session, and other times it was something that they would notice happening across session. But anyway, they'd watch tapes to get a shared sense of what was going on, and then talk about it, and talk about, is this meaningful, or is it just kind of an interesting tidbit that won't hold up? And that provided them a context, I think, for really exploring what they did. And to reflect on it, and not just on their own practices, but they were looking at videotapes of people who weren't part of the team, and what was it that these people were doing that seemed to be useful, or at least seemed interesting and should be followed up. And then that became a way of focusing attention on watching more cases and so on, so that it was sort of open, and it was somewhat chaotic, and it was very experimental, but it wasn't without some grounding in observing cases and talking about cases and reflecting on what they were actually doing. I think one of the things I think from observing therapists for so many years now, one of the things that I think is easy, this is certainly true for teachers, is that you go in and you do it, and then it's over, and it's like, oh, I'm done, and you leave until you have to do it again, and then you might think, okay, let me remember what I did, and then but maybe not, and then you go back and you do it, and then, oh, thank God I'm done, and then and it becomes a series of little incidents, as opposed to a set of connected practices with their own knowledge attached to it, and that somehow in order to connect the knowledge to it, you need to have some way of sitting back and saying, what's going on here? I need to see it. I need to talk about it. I need to think about it, and I need to put it in a bigger context. And I'm not convinced that solution-focused therapy would have emerged the way it did if it hadn't been for the research teams. Something like it might have developed, but I think that the research committee really gave it made sure that it happened, and made sure that these issues were brought to the fore. And I have to say, I enjoyed participating in the research committee a lot. I thought I learned a lot from that, and I just got the sense that other people did too. It was a real challenge.